Thank you for joining us for the 2-minute drills. I'm Aram Legion, joined by Fred J. Robledo, and behind the camera, Steve Ramirez. We are talking about another big one involving Bishop Amat. The Lancers 0-1 off of that loss to Mater Dei last week that everybody saw and everybody seemed to have an opinion on. They are back at home in Kiefer, taking on Servite, which started the season 1-0 with a big win over Fountain Valley. Freddie, not your mom and dad's Fountain Valley team, but the current present day Fountain Valley. So don't go getting too pumped about that.
Well, Servite did it right. I mean, sometimes I look at a lot of these Pac-5 teams like Amat, Mater Dei, and sometimes I think their league is so good that you've got to schedule some of these games just for some momentum, for the student body to feel good. And that's good. I was looking at the Servite Twitter last week, and all these people were fired up. Great way to start the season, great way to get it going. And you got Mater Dei and Amat banging heads in the first week. Someone's going to come out of that with a loss, and when you have these super high expectations and you lose that game, all of a sudden that doubt already starts to creep in. It's creeping in. There's no doubt that it's creeping in at Bishop Amat this week because they're staring at the possibility of starting 0-2, which I think is unheard of. When you talk about the end of last year when they got to the semifinals, and everyone said, oh, wait till next year. They've got everything back when you look at the summer. So this game, obviously there's no absolute must-win situation because you got a lot of league games to go. But I think for their psyche, for Amat Nation, if that's what you want to call them, for a lot of the people on our blogs, shoot the videos this week. We posted the video and posted a question of who should be the quarterback. There's almost 100 comments on that thread. There's a lot of feeling, a lot of passion this week, and this is another great game, and it's their home opener.
Well, last time we talked were the Prep Extra Live post-game show. Now, you had seen the game, I had not.
Have you since seen it?
Yeah, I've since watched it. I was able to get home and watch it Friday night. And, I tell you what, this just seemed to me like a team that, and this is no excuse at all, obviously. They did not live up to expectations. It seemed to me a couple of things. One, a team that just really had a bad game at a bad time, this being Bishop Amat. And two, a team that does have some, problem areas, I guess you could say, that they're going to have to get fixed, or they're not going to have the kind of season that they want to have. Now, do you want me to get into specifics as to what those areas are? I'm sure the fans do.
I came away feeling like these guys know what their strengths are, but it seems like they haven't figured out how to use those strengths properly. Now, granted, it's game one, but they have a lot of weapons. They did have some injuries that probably might have affected the overall outcome of the game, but they have. You look at Sidney and Bonds. One of the problems I have is these guys have got to play make. These guys have got to be more involved. It can't be all downfield stuff. These guys have got to take some short passes and make something happen out of nothing. And you did see a lot of that last week. I think Toriano Sweet probably has to get the ball a little bit more out of the backfield because every time he touched the ball, he really was able to set things up, and that's when the offense moved. But the big question, the one everyone's going to wonder until Friday night, and there's no use asking Steve Haggerty who's going to start on Friday at quarterback, Garcia or Reese.
Does it matter?
He's not going to tell you. You're just going to have to watch.
Does it matter?
You're going to have to watch that game unfold and see what happens.
After watching both guys play on Friday night, do you really have a hard opinion as to who should be the QB? I mean, does it really matter?
Yeah, because
you could be concerned about either one of them for a myriad of reasons.
I don't know because,
sure.
And I'll tell you why. Because these guys as juniors, when watched Garcia through games before he got injured, he really looked before his injury. Those 2 games prior to his injury, he was really playing well, and Amat got going again.
He was.
When I looked at Ryder, and I'm talking about these guys who have know that they're going to be quarterback, they're going to be there the whole game.
Right.
They don't have to worry about someone looking over their shoulder. I've seen them do it against very good teams, an entire games. I mean, Ryder put up some amazing numbers last year, some 400-yard passing games. These guys can do it. But, Aaron, you watch them in a platoon situation, and you're right. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
These guys don't look as well when they're only playing half the game, or they don't know when they're going to come in the next series.
He did look good last year, Ryder, but that was because there was no chance that anyone could say, okay, Damien, you're going in if he screws this up. Damien was injured, and that was that.
Right.
And when Damien was the starter, he was the unquestioned starter. No one was sitting there saying, hey, we could probably go to Ryder. Ryder was a bit of a surprise, once Damien got hurt. However, Mater Dei was able to do something that I wondered why teams last year did not do once Ryder got in there, and that was pressure the hell out of them gamble a little bit on the outside with Sidney and well, I guess not so much Sidney last year, but Vaughn's especially, and just say, hey, we're going to pressure this guy, and we're going to keep everything as best we can in front of us, and just see if he can beat us. Mater Dei, they decided to do that, and it was the perfect game plan defensively that for some reason no one down the stretch last year could figure out and didn't throw that at Amat. I guess that's why Rollo is Rollo, and that's why, that type of thing worked.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Fred. It's very simple after watching that game. Bishop Amat, their whole offense, their whole everything is going to have to go for Toriano sweep. It's going to have to be pounding sweep, pounding sweep, pounding sweep. It's kind of like the Ohio State method. And once that gets established, then you start to hit these guys downfield for big plays, Sidney and Vaughn's. It loosens up the coverage on them. And that's the only way that this is going to work. Now, again, I talked about there were problems that I saw, and here's the problems, and it may get a little bit better this week. Mater Dei very obviously saw at halftime or throughout the first half and after halftime made their plan to be, we're just going to pound this team.
Right.
They're not Pac-5 up front on that defensive line.
They're
not.
They weren't last week. They didn't look like it anymore.
Size-wise, they're not. Effort-wise, we know
And
Amat always gives a
there's
great
going to be
effort.
better running backs down the line in the Pac-5
Sure,
they're going to go up
right.
against.
But there may not be as good of offensive. There are good offensive lines, but Mater Dei had some really big guys up front. And if you're Servite, you're sitting back looking and saying, you know what? You don't want to test this Amat team, this Amat defense outside, because this is the year where they have that speed. You saw Gaston pick off a pass last week and take it back. You got Sidney out there. That's not where you test Amat. What you do with Amat is you just line up and try and bull them over. And I imagine Servite's going to try and do the exact same thing that Mater Dei did.
If you look at all of the years past, and at least since Haggerty's been there, they've done very, very well against the run. Teams haven't been able to run the ball down their throats. What's got them is their secondary. They would give up big passes, big plays. Good quarterbacks were able to move down the field. That's how they gave up big points in the past. It wasn't teams running down their throats. That's why it was surprising to me to see Mater Dei do whatever they wanted with their defensive line on Friday night. I mean, they were able to but you know what? There weren't a lot of big plays.
It wasn't.
I think it was a perfect storm of grinding. That they got every one of those big third down plays, and it was really a big third quarter.
Right.
And Amat kind of shut them down. It's not like they only scored 10 points.
Yeah, there were no 20-yard runs.
But
they were 5-yard runs.
I'm not convinced this is a sign that Bishop Amat is going to have trouble on their defensive line, or they're going to have trouble stopping the run. I think it was a perfect storm for Mater Dei in that third quarter, where everything went right on that long 8-minute scoring drive. And at that point, I think it really wore them down in the heat. It's the last week of August. It's tired. I was just talking to Pete Birmingham. He's saying that busy locker room had no air conditioning while the other one did, and those guys were dying in there. So we'll see. I just think traditionally they've always done pretty well against the run.
Well, I'm telling you right now, that's their problem area, especially
There's
on
August
defense.
prediction for December.
No, I'm serious. They have a problem up front. That is not a Pac-5, a top 5, top 10 Pac-5 quality defensive line.
Top 10?
Yeah, top 5, top 10. I'm saying size-wise, they're just not up there with teams that are just bigger.
I just think
it's not way early to say, Fred, because we're looking at size. We're not looking at anything else.
Well, they've always kind of had that knock on them, their size, but it hasn't affected them in the past. They've been
why do you say it hasn't affected them?
Because I'm telling you, up front, defensively, they've always done pretty well against the run. They have.
What does that mean?
Teams haven't run the ball down. Well, whether you want to talk about their size, just go straight size. That's one thing. But defensively, they've always done pretty well defending teams that like to pound the ball down your throat. They have.
Or could it be that the teams in their leagues, the Alamanis and whatnots, Notre Dames, are kind of spread teams that throw the ball and whatever? Because I think Crespi did just fine running the ball at Amat last year and actually beat them.
Yeah, they've got a lot of guys.
Centennial did just fine running the ball at Amat last year.
Centennial.
And beat them.
Well,
so Crespi, Centennial.
It was a pretty good mix. You're talking about the best of the best.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
I said top 5, top 10.
Well, I don't think there's 10 Centennials or 10. I think there's a Centennial and a Bosco, and then there's everybody else.
Well, maybe so, but I mean, against the good Pac-5 running games, you're going to have some problems with this Amat defensive line. However, that defensive line is going to get some relief this week because Aaron Maldonado if nothing more than anything, he is a big body that they can plug up there. They're not going to have Vasquez anymore, and granted, he was a speedy guy. Brayton is offensive line. He won't be back for probably another month or maybe a little bit more with the shoulder injury. So those are the two things. In order to get Vaughns and Sidney, going and have them take over games, they're reliant on having the QBs get them the ball.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen straight up, if you ask me. That's only going to happen if Sweet is busting off 8, 10-yard runs and things loosen up, and then all of a sudden they're found underneath. That's the trouble with receivers. They're reliant on a QB getting them the ball. Servite's not modern day, Fred. They're not. They're just not. And you're not going to see. I think modern day is probably a top 3 or 4 Pac-5 team. I think you're going to see Bishop Amat look a lot better on offense this week, no matter who the QB is.
Yeah.
I think they'll look a lot better on offense. And defensively, if they can stop Servite from doing what I predict Servite's going to do, and that's going to be try and line up and pound them and try and do what Modern Day did, I think Amat will be just fine, and they'll get back, in the win column, and they'll be able to move on to the rest of their non-league, where I doubt they will lose another game until league.
What is your prediction Friday? You think they're going to go with one quarterback and stay with him, or have the game plan to stay with him unless something gets really bad, or you think they're going to go in with the idea we're still going to platoon and figure this out?
I think Damian Garcia is going to start the game, and I think they're probably going to stick with him. That's just my guess.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I think they're going to stay with Garcia. And you're right. I think a game at home in Servite, you're right, isn't modern day. It's a game they've got to win for their psyche, and I think they're going to get it. I wouldn't be surprised if it's close, but I think it's one of those games. They're going to figure out a way to pull this out and get it done, and then we're going to come back in here Friday night, and then we're going to have a better idea, I think, of where this team is headed. But they can't keep platooning quarterbacks. I've said that once, I say it again. You have two of the best receivers that you've had since the mid-'90s, since you go way back to the Jackson days. You've got to have one quarterback who they get comfortable with, who's going to get them the ball, who they can kind of feel and know. You can't keep going back and forth. Not when you have two weapons like that.
I think the Jackson days were the mid-'80s.
Mid-'80s, okay.
Jeez, isn't that terrible for us?
Well, I'm a mid-'80s guy.
Yeah, we're getting old.
It may have been the early 80s.
Breakfast Club.
It was 85.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Breakfast Club in the movie theater.
Movie theaters.
All right.
Pretty in pink, all those. Amazing.
Okay, Ducky. All right, so anyways, here we go.
A pace for Coley.
Stevie, we didn't really give you a chance to say much about this.
Who's your
do you want to
prediction,
just
Steve?
make a pick?
I would probably go with Bishop Amat.
Yeah.
I can't take too much stock in what Servite did last week. That's a team they should beat pretty.
It's like Boston playing La Mirada or something. Well,
Yeah, but that's a team they should beat pretty handily, and they did. And I just have to pick Amat in this one. I think they will bounce back.
Yeah, well, you learn more from losses than you do from wins.
And I will be there covering this game
Yeah,
Friday.
Freddie will be. Now, here's the good news.
Keeper.
And this is for the fans, too. No tailgate party, so
tailgate.
Freddie, I don't know if you saw this yesterday. Gates to the school open at 5:45 p.m., so don't be getting there all early. And then, obviously, the game starts at 7 o'clock. So, again, I told you, you can literally pull up
They
at 6:55.
are really ruining this pregame experience. You can't, wow.
Well,
you can't just sit there and park and just kind of talk outside?
You can do that just outside the fence.
Yeah.
So, it'll be interesting to see what Amat fans do to get creative, but you can get there at 6:50, 6:55 for any to be comfortable.
Yeah, for a 7 o'clock game?
Yes,
Yeah.
for a 7 o'clock game.
I hope
okay,
not.
so Amat and Servite, we all pick Amat to bounce back and get back in the right direction. Enjoy that one, 7 o'clock at Kiefer on Friday night. Thank you for watching.